Between 2007 and 2009, Japan witnessed a disturbing pattern of deaths. Single, middle-aged men were found dead in their homes, cars, and apartments. At first glance, the cases appeared unrelated. Each death was ruled a suicide or a tragic accident. But, as the number grew, one woman quietly stood at the center of them all. Her name was Kanae Kijima, later known to the media as the Black Widow of Japan. Kanae Kijima was born on November 27, 1974. She grew up in a respectable and financially stable family. Her father worked as a notary and her mother was a piano teacher. As the eldest of 4 children, Kanae received special attention and high expectations. From a young age, she showed talent in music and spent countless hours practicing piano, even performing at concerts and competitions. Behind this cultured upbringing was a strict household. Kanae's father enforced rigid discipline, controlled spending, and limited entertainment. While Kanae excelled academically, one restriction deeply affected her: money. She developed a strong attraction to luxury, status, and expensive possessions. As a teenager, Kanae crossed a line. She discovered that her father kept a large amount of cash at home and stole it, spending the money on designer clothes and accessories. When her father found out, he punished her by cutting off financial support. Kanae felt no guilt. Instead, her desire for wealth only intensified. Soon after, she entered the world of paid companionship, offering attention and emotional closeness to older men in exchange for money. This path quickly led to crime. Under the influence of an older partner, Kanae participated in a major fraud involving a stolen bank book. Though arrested, she avoided prison due to her age and received a suspended sentence. After finishing school, Kanae moved to Tokyo. She enrolled in college but dropped out almost immediately. Life in the city was harsh. Low-paying jobs, long hours, and a small apartment frustrated her deeply. She began shoplifting, stealing cosmetics, books, and cash. But petty theft wasn't enough to support the lifestyle she wanted. Kanae eventually joined escort clubs, where clients paid for conversation, companionship, and intimacy. She did not fit traditional beauty standards, but everything changed when she met a mentor who taught her the psychology of seduction. Kanae learned that loneliness, not attraction, was her greatest weapon. She targeted men with low self-esteem, often middle-aged or elderly, successful but emotionally isolated. Kanae mastered the art of emotional manipulation, kindness, patience, and constant reassurance. She made her victims feel seen, valued, and loved. Adopting the alias Sakura, Kanae created multiple identities. She claimed to be a nurse, a pianist, a graduate student, even a chef. Each story was tailored to the man she was speaking to. Online dating platforms became her hunting ground, allowing her to reach countless victims while hiding behind a screen. One of the first major victims was Sadao Fukuyama. Kanae convinced him she was studying music abroad and needed financial support. Over time, she drained his savings and disappeared. In 2007, Sadao was found dead in his shower. His death was ruled accidental, and Kanae quietly transferred money from his account after the news broke. Encouraged by how easily she escaped suspicion, Kanae refined her methods. She began using sedatives to incapacitate her victims and charcoal-burning stoves to cause carbon monoxide poisoning, an especially effective method in Japan, where such deaths are often assumed to be suicides. In 2009, Takao Terada, a 53-year-old systems engineer, fell deeply in love with Sakura. Kanae drugged him during dinner, sealed his apartment, and left him unconscious as carbon monoxide filled the room. Before leaving, she transferred over $120,000 from his bank account. His death was classified as suicide. Another victim, Kenzo Ando, an elderly man who hired Kanae as a caregiver, trusted her completely. She gained access to his home, finances, and valuables. After drugging him and setting the same deadly trap, a fire broke out. Kenzo died instantly. Despite evidence of sedatives in his body, authorities again ruled it an accident. Kanae's confidence grew. She continued blogging, networking, and manipulating multiple men at once, but her final crime would expose her. In August 2009, Yukio Ueda, a 41-year-old man close to his mother and optimistic about life, announced his engagement to Kanae. During a trip together, she drugged him and left him locked inside a car with burning charcoal. This time, she made a fatal mistake. She took the car keys with her. Security cameras recorded Kanae leaving the parking lot. An autopsy revealed tranquilizers in Yukio's system. Investigators noticed the similarities between his death and several others that same year. Police connected the dots. All the victims were single men. All had transferred large sums of money to Kanae. All died under nearly identical circumstances. A search of her residence uncovered sedatives, receipts for electric stoves, and disabled fire alarms. In 2010, Kanae Kijima was arrested. She was charged with fraud and later with murder. During the trial, she denied everything, claiming the men chose to end their lives. Prosecutors relied on patterns, financial records, and circumstantial evidence. On April 13, 2012, Kanae Kijima was found guilty of murdering 3 men and sentenced to death. Even on death row, Kanae remained controversial. She continued blogging, received financial support from admirers, published memoirs, and even married multiple times while incarcerated. Her story remains one of Japan's most shocking true crime cases, a chilling reminder of how manipulation, patience, and deception can be deadlier than violence itself. Investigators later reconstructed Kijima's psychological profile in detail. Experts described her as exhibiting strong narcissistic traits, a profound lack of empathy, and a cold, calculating mindset. To Kanae, people were never individuals with intrinsic value. They were assets. Money, admiration, security, and social status blended into a single objective. And the deaths of her victims were, in her mind, an acceptable cost for the life she believed she deserved. Particular attention during the trial was paid to her cooking blog. Kijima maintained it with unsettling calm, posting elaborate recipes, photographs of carefully plated meals, and reflections on what she called her peaceful daily life. Many of these entries were published on the very days her victims died. Prosecutors highlighted this contrast as evidence of her emotional detachment and total absence of remorse, arguing that her ability to switch between domestic warmth and lethal manipulation was central to her crimes. Investigators also uncovered that Kanae had extensively researched carbon monoxide poisoning. She read online forums discussing suicide methods, studied police response patterns, and learned which scenarios were most likely to be ruled accidental. She exploited cultural assumptions in Japan, where solitary deaths among middle-aged men are often attributed to personal despair rather than criminal interference. As the media coverage intensified, the public became deeply divided. Some saw her as a cold-blooded predator who weaponized loneliness. Others, disturbingly, romanticized her intelligence and composure. Letters poured into the detention center, and small donations continued to arrive even after her conviction. This attention only reinforced the image Kanae cultivated, that of a misunderstood woman rather than a calculated killer. Her case prompted nationwide debate about online dating safety, investigative blind spots in apparent suicide cases, and the vulnerability of socially isolated individuals. Police agencies began re-examining similar deaths, while dating platforms faced pressure to improve identity verification and fraud detection. Kanae Kijima never offered a confession or apology. Until the end, she insisted on her innocence, maintaining that the men acted of their own free will. Yet, the pattern she left behind, repeated deception, financial exploitation, and meticulously staged deaths, formed a narrative too consistent to ignore. Her legacy remains a haunting example of how patience, psychological insight, and manipulation can quietly destroy lives without ever drawing immediate suspicion. Beyond the courtroom, journalists and criminologists continued to dissect Kijima's methods in an effort to understand how she evaded detection for so long. One recurring conclusion was that her crimes did not rely on force, haste, or chaos. Instead, they were slow, intimate, and deliberate. She invested months, sometimes years, into cultivating trust. By the time she acted, the victims had already emotionally surrendered, making resistance unnecessary. Former acquaintances described Kanae as patient and remarkably disciplined. She kept meticulous records of her interactions, carefully managing multiple relationships at once without obvious overlap. She knew exactly when to apply pressure and when to retreat, allowing her victims to believe they were in control. This illusion of agency was crucial. It made the men more willing to transfer money, change wills, or isolate themselves from family and friends. Financial investigators later uncovered that Kanae structured her frauds to resemble voluntary gifts rather than theft. She encouraged her victims to write messages explaining their transfers as acts of love or support. In several cases, she advised them on how to justify large withdrawals to banks, anticipating scrutiny long before it occurred. This foresight complicated early investigations and delayed suspicion even when deaths accumulated.